The pendulum continues to publicly swing on the subject of Donald Trump and his necessary dealings with the Republican National Committee and those who would support and financially back his coming ground game for president. Where once he angered the RNC, then was told to get in line, announced he was going to be more of a traditional candidate and work with the party, to his latest assertion that he doesn't need anybody's help to win the presidency, that he's prepared to go it alone because, after all, it's worked so far, so why not expect his winning streak to continue? The fear is that Trump has made a calculated mistake at a time he can least afford it, and he's rolling the dice here with the lives and futures of tens of millions of dedicated Republicans and conservatives. And the Democrats hear him say things like that, smile and say, "You go right ahead, Mr. Trump," securing what they believe is the knowledge they are being handed yet another gift in their drive for the presidency. Hey, Donald Trump's a smart guy. He has the backing of millions of Americans, many of you out there right now. He can't be this foolish, could he? Your calls are part of this show every segment. You need to be on the line to interact with our guests. 1-877-Newsmax, 1-877-639-7629. Always a pleasure to welcome back to the Hardline Wall Street veteran, columnist for the Fiscal Times, her personal blog entitled Right-Headed Commentary on Politics and Economics, Liz Peek, joined by the veteran Republican media strategist who was a member of the 1980 Ronald Reagan campaign, Marc Rotterman. Thank you both for joining us. Let's get right to it. Mark, the new guy in town, let's go ahead and get you in here right away and get to this. Donald Trump says, everybody, shh, you and the Republicans, be quiet, leave me alone. I don't need you and I can get it done. Hey, wait a minute. I mean, why not think about it here? And by the way, I've been told that they need me to go to Liz first here. I guess we have a technical issue here. Don't worry, Mark, we're going to take care of it. So, Liz, I'm going to come to you first on this one right now. Is Trump right? I mean, let's face it, everything he's done to this point has gotten him to the nomination, or is it a big mistake?
Trump and win this election, and it's not helpful to have people talking about changing the rules at the convention, for example, so that we could possibly lob in another candidate. Let's face it, Trump is the presumed nominee. If somehow he has the rules changed under his feet and he does not become the nominee, all his supporters are going to basically disappear, and we are not going to win an election. And here's the point. Trump is an amateur, and he's making a lot of mistakes. I mean, he's missed some opportunities in the last 2 or 3 weeks. It appears to me that he's not listening to his advisors. He has to get his act together, and he has to get it together now, because Hillary Clinton may talk about how she's not a super candidate, but the truth is she has a super bankroll, and she's out there putting ads out in all the important states, and she is going to steamroll over him unless he gets organized. He has a good message. He can do this, I believe. And so I'm kind of, I'd like to see people stop the massive criticism of him, because that isn't helpful. But I understand that people like Mark Kirk, for example, have their own political careers to think about. And so it's unlikely that that's going to stop unless Donald Trump really kind of turns over a new leaf and becomes a little bit more responsible candidate.
I guess that's the point in here. That's the point in here, Liz. When you mention the criticism, and you're right, let's face it, there are many people who feel like they just love to heap it on Donald Trump, but does he not bring it on himself?
Yeah, I mean, there's self-inflicted wounds all over the place. There's no question about it. But again, here's the reality, folks. There are two candidates going to be running for president, Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump. And if you're a never Hillary person, as I am, and you are very, very concerned that 1 to 4 vacancies are going to show up on the Supreme Court, you do not want Hillary Clinton appointing justices for the Supreme Court and for the next 20 years possibly influencing the outcome of every vote that's taken on the Supreme Court. It is too important. That is the single issue that is too important to ignore. And I think that's a very good reason for voting for Trump, even with all of his warts and blemishes.
All right, Mark, let's get you in here, because we did mention Hillary Clinton here. Let's look at this. The latest poll from CBS News now has Hillary Clinton maintaining her lead over Donald Trump nationwide. There are a lot of polls out there that say it's double digits. In this one, you've got 43 to 37% in the CBS poll, and Hillary Clinton is getting ready to unleash major advertising blocks of television time and ads in 8 battleground states. And that already points to her ground game that is so much more ready, so much more prepared than Donald Trump's. So I ask you then, as the strategist, all this included right now, has Trump just made a monstrous blunder that he's got to basically, and people are going to hate this, shut up, take his medicine, and get back to running a campaign?
Well, I don't think you're ever going to govern Trump. But let's face it, Hillary's going to let all cannons fire here. It may be too early. Trump was just down in North Carolina. He was scripted. He was on point. He raised $800,000 at a fundraiser. And let's remember, in the key battle states, it's very close. So I don't take the national polls all that seriously. And look, Trump has to get a little tighter. But I would say to the Republican leadership, if you can't say anything good, don't say anything at all.
All right, I'm going to get right to that point here. And it's interesting. That's a great segue because John McCain today, the Republican senator from Arizona, very respected individual. In the Senate halls today, he made the statement, Barack Obama is directly responsible for what happened in Orlando. Because when he pulled everybody out of Iraq, al-Qaeda went to Syria, it became ISIS. Then later, he backed up on all that and he said, well, wait a minute, I was referring to President Obama's national security decisions that have led to the rise of ISIL, not to the president himself. Let me ask you, though, is this smart for John McCain to take this kind of attack at this point, make what is basically a mistake? Does it help Donald Trump or does it hurt him?
Well, I think national security and economic security work for Trump. ISIS is not on the run. They're on the rise. Let's face it. We've had some security blunders here. I think the FBI dropped the ball several times in Orlando, but that's because we have a PC Justice Department. I mean, I think that Obama lives, frankly, in a parallel universe when it comes to the war on terror.
We're going to let people go ahead and comment on this real quick, Liz. Your take on John McCain here, because it just seems to be that there's just so much rhetoric flying around these days that we're getting swamped by it all.
Yeah, but here's what's happened since Orlando. Let's face it, the news media, and I was listening to CBS News tonight on this matter, it's all about gun control. No one is trying to talk. Obama isn't even trying to come up with any ideas or strategies about preventing this kind of attack. It's all about gun control. You would think, according to Obama land, that if you banned the availability of this kind of particular kind of weapon, the assault rifle, that basically this kind of attack would stop. It's not going to. It's not totally dependent on new laws on gun control. But it's amazing to me how effectively Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama took an issue that, let's face it, they are vulnerable on, because whether John McCain phrases it in terms of Obama's responsibility or the national security apparatus, the truth is ISIS has grown, metastasized. It is a worldwide threat, and that's happened on their watch, and they're not being held accountable for that. Instead, we're talking about assault rifles. It's amazing.
Let's get a couple of calls in here. 1-877 Newsmax. Everybody, please be on point. Give us 30 seconds or less, please, because we are tight on time. Tim in Houston, Texas, talking about the party needing to get behind Donald Trump. Go ahead, Tim.
Yes, sir. I just have one view, and why aren't they really looking at the rhetoric that's being expressed through the Hamas and the religious leaders that are teaching the hatred?
Tim, thanks a lot for your phone call. Unfortunately, I don't think that's going to be on point at this time. Dave in Bel Air, Maryland. Dave, Trump's in a no-win situation. Tell us why. 30 seconds.
Well, you know, with Donald, he needs the Republicans, but to me, it's these Republicans in there that've been in there for all these years, and they're mad because they didn't get their man in there, and it's almost like they picked their ball up and said, we're going to go home. And they're basically handing it to Hillary. Donald has to tone down his rhetoric, but I think if he had the people behind him and he felt the support of the RNC, then he would listen a little bit more to these people.
Okay, let me stop you there because that's a good point here. Mark, let me come to you. 30 seconds to you, Mark. Is that just as simple as that? The RNC, get behind him. He's your candidate. Stop whining here, and that will take him to victory. Or are we missing something here in the strategy?
I don't think it's helpful to criticize the nominee. I think that Ryan is looking to run in 2016. I view Romney, Crystal, that whole crowd as the crybaby caucus. Look, is Trump a gamble for the Republicans? Yes. But do you want a third Obama term? And that's what Hillary represents. And the nation just can't afford it.
Hey, Liz, about 30 seconds to you. Might it not be a bad idea then if Donald Trump just does it all by himself at this point?
No, I think he needs the party elders in his corner. And I think your guest is totally right that there's a certain amount of peeve. I really don't know what else is motivating Mitt Romney. Look, I think Mitt Romney is a very elegant personality, a very smart guy. I think he's probably affronted that Donald Trump is the candidate. But you know what? It's time to sit down and just, be supportive or don't be there. But I totally agree. It's time to kind of put those concerns behind us and try and defeat Hillary Clinton.
I got a feeling that we're going to be looking at this exact same issue now for weeks and months on end heading towards November. Liz Peek, Marc Rotterman, thank you so much for joining us. A pleasure to have you both on the show. It's now the weapon gun dealers can't keep in stock. And it's the comments that have Republicans more concerned than ever about the presidential election in November. That and more. Your phone calls. Curtis Sliwa joins us next on The Hardline.